start off a little bit about tonight, and I wanted to talk about front end vibrations, or whole body vibrations for that matter. When you're running down the road at 60 miles an hour and your car is shaking, maybe just a little tiny bit, or maybe so much that you don't want to go any faster, it has to do with four wheels or a drive shaft. Those are the only 5 things turning in the car. That's the only difference between doing 60 miles an hour on the road at, say, 3,500 RPM, or sitting in your driveway at 3,500 RPM. You can sit in your driveway and rev it up and get a buzz or a jingle or a vibration. It's obviously not the wheels, it's something else, but it's just never anything else. It's always the wheels and or the drive shaft. The drive shaft gives a whole body vibration. If your rear view mirror is shaking, if the car's rumbling and your butt's shaking around in the driver's seat, that's a drive shaft. So you can take the drive shaft off. You can take it to a truck shop. They'll put in a new tube. They'll balance it. They'll put new U-joints in it, and you get out of that for less than $200. You can buy a new drive shaft too, but if you take it to a local place and they actually attend to yours, when you get it back, you're going to be pretty assured that what you're getting back is a quality piece, because most of those driveline places have trucks as customers. The truck guys are that's heavy duty work, and most of those places are really, really good. So what about a front end vibration where the steering wheel is doing this, it's shaking, okay? All vibration begins at the wheel. So you say, well, I've already had the wheels balanced 2 times, and they're great. So what else could it be? Well, first of all, let's talk about the wheels. There's 2 wheels. There's a wire wheel and there's a disc wheel. The disc wheel is lug centric. That means that the wheel turns on the 4 studs that go through the casting, or go through the metal. And most balancing places just grab the wheel by the center. Now that's usually pretty close, but just because there's a hole punched in the middle of your row style wheel doesn't mean that's the center of the wheel. It really should be balanced on the 4 lugs. How do you do that? Well, this gets more complicated. Now you need some sort of special tool to attach the wheel to, like a front hub. Put the front hub on the balancing machine and then tighten up the lug nuts so that your wheel is tight against the front hub. That's the perfect way to do it, to make sure that the tire is balanced. Wire wheels are easy. Wire wheels are straightforward. If you can't get your local people to do it, go to a motorcycle shop. They balance wire wheels all the time. The other nice thing about wire wheels is if they're faulty, if they're bent, we're going to go back to talking about bent steel wheels. If they're bent, they're not running true.
Sure be nice to make a raft so that I can get to this other river over here.
Okay.
River.
That's why I got the mute all button. When you spin the wheel, you look at the wheel on the front of your car and you grab a hold of it and you pull it and you spin it. So it's going around and around and you watch it. The tread should be absolutely true. If the tread's doing this, help me out, the wheel's bent. If you look at the wheel from the side, and as it goes around, it kind of goes up and down, then the outside is not.
Get a feeling of like despair. To be honest with you right now, there's nothing I would like better.
Well, once more on that. If the wheel is wobbling side to side, or if it's not concentric, you can put 2 pounds of lead on that wheel and make it seem like it's balanced. It is balanced, but that's not all there is to it. The wheel is not running true on the ground. Another really good thing you can do just by yourself is spin the wheel, and feel the outside of the wheel as it comes around. Just have your hand on the wheel. Just feel it. It should feel the same all from one side to the other, and it should feel the same as it's spinning. There should be no lumps, no flat spots. If there are, you can't balance. I mean, you can't balance out a flat spot. Tires are not perfect. They're really good, but they're not perfect. The advantage of wire wheels is if yours are your wheels are shot, your tires are shot, you can get new wheels. You can send them to Allen Hendricks in Greensboro, North Carolina. There may be other firms too. And he'll set that thing up. He'll true the wheels. He'll get tires on there. He'll shave the tires. And those things are, I don't want to say perfectly round because nothing's perfect, but they're perfectly round. And they are concentric with the center of the wheel, and they're great. They're great. So you can always take care of a bent wire wheel. Can't take care of it yourself. There's no, you can buy a spoke wrench. Spokes are all frozen. Now I say this, but you know, out in California, I was just out there, and it's like, surprise, surprise, there's no rust out there, unless the car came from Pennsylvania or Wisconsin. But my experience is that you cannot straighten a wire wheel. It's oh my gosh, you spend your whole life trying to get the thing straight. But you can buy new ones that are straight. You can send them to Allen Hendricks, for instance, and he'll get them even straighter than they came out of the factory, and get the wheels balanced. So that leaves us with disc wheels. So disc wheels, you can have a real problem with the wheels. You can have bent wheels. I had bent wheels on my MGA from the day I purchased it in May of 1976 until 2 years ago when I got my wheels re-rimmed by a shop named Diamond Wheel, like diamond as on your wife's ring finger, Diamond Wheel in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And they took the rim right off my wheels. They were held in place with great big rivets. They drilled them out, burned them off, something or other, and then welded new rims, which look exactly the same, to my centers. They are true. For the first time that I've had that car since 1976, well, for the first time for the past 2 years, I've been able to drive it at 90 miles an hour with zero vibration, because all vibration begins at the wheel. So if the wheels are true, it isn't going to vibrate, not much. Now, not everybody can send their wheels off. You can't buy new row styles. You can buy new mini lights, and that often takes care of all that in one fell swoop, but they aren't original wheels. So there's always some imbalance in the wheel. There's always some. And so because you've got coil springs on the front, there's a harmonic that sets up. Unfortunately, it always seems to be around 58 to 65 miles an hour or so, where the front wheel will start hopping. So where it reverberates, where it picks up a harmonic. So the shock absorbers are designed to dampen, that's why they're called dampers. They're designed to dampen that harmonic motion. And they usually work just fine. But if the shock is weak or it's not shocking at all, if the dampening effect is not there at all, then no matter how true your wheels are, you're going to have trouble. There are other problems out there too. There are weird ones where maybe the inner tie rod end or the outer tie rod end on the rack and pinion or on the tie rod are faulty. We had one time where a guy just was out of his mind trying to get his car straight, and we took his this is an MGB stub axle, and there are shims that fit right in here between the spacer and the outer wheel bearing, and those you have to size those, and so when you tighten up this nut up in front, it jams the rollers against the races. Well, it doesn't jam them, but it only allows maybe 0.02 of end float in here. And the guy had about 0.10 of end float, and that was the cause of his high-speed vibration. Go figure. So there can be weird things. I brought this along. I've got a YouTube video on this. This is an MGA twin cam, MGA Deluxe, or all MGBs and all MGCs. So, right, I was going to show you where the shims were. I don't have any shims there, but between the spacer and the outer wheel bearing, there's supposed to be shims, and those shims are selectively fitted. You can buy them from everybody, you buy them from Moss, and you have to hand fit them. If you got disc wheels, it's really easy. If you got wire wheels, oh my gosh, you got to reach down inside the tube all the time, fussing around and changing them so you can get the right end float. You need an end float of about 3 thousandths, 2 or 3 thousandths. So this is an MGA, although it's the same idea as a midget, and these are roller bearings, so there is no space, there are no shims between the spacer cones and the bearings. Let me try to get this thing back together before I ruin my computer. It's got a backwards thread on it. So anyway, this system can be flawed. Either the spacer can be too long and holding the bearings apart. If this is too short and the bearings are kind of crunched, you aren't going to get any front end vibration. The wheel bearings will fail too soon, but you won't get any vibration. So it's just chasing it. It's just chasing it. So when you're home, you put the rear wheels on the front and then the front wheels on the back and go out and drive it again. Is it still shaking as much? Change the wheels left and right. Is it still shaking much? You spin them by hand and you look at the tread. Is it wobbling back and forth, going up and down? You know, tires old. The car's been sitting on the tires in the same spot for 3 years, and you go out and start driving it. Help me out. You got flat spots on the wheel. You can get new shocks only if the shocks are faulty. There's other rubber bushings on the A-arms. Sometimes when those fail, you can get some clunking up there, rarely vibration, because that coil spring is so strong, it doesn't allow your vibration comes out from something that's loose. So anyway, those are my quick comments about wire wheels and disc wheels and vibrations. So, although maybe we've talked about this before. And just before we get into chat, let me run by 2 questions that I got on the internet today. Brian Mulvihill wrote me about his 1969 MGB and said that he originally purchased the car. I think that's what he said. And they took the air cleaners off, and there were K&N air filters in there, and there was oil inside the air cleaners. Now, how could that be? He asked me, how could that be? And the only thing that makes any sense to me is that someone oiled up the air filters really heavily. Better to put too much oil on them than not enough oil, because K&N air filters only work when you've got oil. Well, they work better when you've got oil, because the oil and the mesh combined remove the particulates from the oil or from the air before they get into the carburetor. So I think it just meant in Mr. Mulvihill's case here, the 69B, I think probably the former owner had just over-oiled the air cleaners, but better to over-oil them than under-oil them. The next question I got was from John Graboff, and he's just bought a 68B, and he was wondering what the micro adjuster was on the distributor. Why is it there? Well, why would you use it? How do you use it? So prior to 1975, on all the distributors back through the MGAs, all the 25Ds, the other side, I can't even come up with what an MGC body is, but the DM4s used in the MGAs, the vacuum advance unit had a wheel, and that's the micro adjuster wheel for the timing. Now, I'll tell you over and over and over to set your timing at 32 degrees before top dead center at full mechanical advance, vacuum disconnected. Do not vary from that spec. But when the cars were being manufactured, people fiddled with the timing. So this allowed you to change the timing on the road. And if the clicker is still there, there's 11 clicks to 1 degree. So you can sort of keep track. You're not just wildly turning it one way and then, oh, that didn't seem to make any difference. Let me try it the other way. You can actually keep track by counting the clicks in advancing or retarding the spark. That 32 degree figure is true for all of our engines, TC through 1980, MGB, midget 1500s, MGCs, not MGA twin cams, and not MGB GTV8s, and not supercharged cars. Supercharged take about 28 degrees. So anyway, so to Mr. Graboff, that is an archaic hand adjustment that you can make, but I would set it just in the middle if it even turns, and set your timing at 32 degrees before top dead center at full mechanical advance. That means that the engine's running pretty fast, 3,000–4,000 RPM with the vacuum disconnected. So that is my introduction. It's 8:26. I've talked, oh my gosh, for almost half an hour nonstop, but that's why you tune in, I guess. Anyway, we've got 151 people online right now, and I'm going to start reading off from the chat section. So my first one up here is from Judd. What's this? My TD shimmy shimmy Cocoa Pop? That is that must be someone's TikTok video.
That's what I'm gonna name it. At 58 miles an hour, it's shimmy shimmy Cocoa Pop all down the road, and I think you addressed it all. And anybody that wants to see little Anthony singing shimmy shimmy Cocoa Pop can click on that link. But the MG also does exactly the same thing. The MGB, the previous owner, sent it up to Hendricks in Greensboro, and it is smooth as silk.
So but the TD's got disc wheels on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, you look at those old machines, even the new machines, but you look at those old machines with that single pin that comes up to keep the wheel from rotating, and those great big heavy feet that came in to pull the tire off. They ended up bending the wheel. That's what happened to my MGA. They bent the wheels. Somebody bent the wheels, and nobody will straighten them. I can't find anybody. I just ran into someone in California who said, oh, I know someone who straightens wheels, but I
will say, I was shocked. There's a little country tire store about 1.5 miles from here, a little place called O'Neill. I'm in Gowansville. And I went in, and they have all of the devices to do lug-centered wheel balancing, and for 4 holes and 5 holes and all of that. So I had all 4 wheels balanced, and it made a big difference. It didn't get rid of it all, but it made a big difference to have it properly balanced. And it's an adapter that goes on their wheel balancer. Now that's off the car, so I don't know what the brake drums are like or anything like that.
But they're lug centric. That is a fact. That's the biggest thing you can do to try to get the wheels balanced. But first of all, they have to be straight. So yeah. So anyway, if you want to listen to somebody who singing
Little Anthony and the Imperials.
Oh, Little Anthony's. So you can go on to that link for YouTube. From Ott and Beth. Happy to talk to Ott if you want to unmute yourself, because Ott's installed the Moss caster correction kit. That's a lot of alliteration there. Caster correction kit. So, are you here? Yeah, I see you.
Yes, I'm here. It's shims that get mounted between the front cross member and the body rail on the MGB. And it lowers the front of the cross member about 3/8 of an inch. And I had a hard time getting the steering to work again after I did that. And I finally got it by using a bunch of washers to shim up the steering rack again, so that it turns smoothly. But it has made a difference with easier steering.
So what I was talking about is that the MGB, MGA, T-type, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Just here, I'm on my Zoom tonight. So,
They are aluminum shims, about 8 inches long.
yeah, yep. So normally on a kingpin, the kingpin is angled forward. Okay, the bottom of the kingpin is angled. Is that right? Am I doing this right? Yes, the bottom of the kingpin is angled forward. And because of that, when you go around a corner and let go of the steering wheel, it snaps back to center really fast. Or if you're going down the road, it tends to track better. And this is especially true with bias ply wheels. But so it's not this much of an angle by any means, but it's on an angle. So what these caster shims do is straighten this up, because the kingpin runs through here, and when you turn the steering wheel left and right, not only does it turn the wheels, but the car lifts up and down. And the more caster you have, the more the car lifts up and down. So you're turning the wheel and moving the car up and down. Now that was necessary with bias ply tires to keep you on the road, to keep your tracking straight. TCs have got a lot more caster than the later cars. That's why you don't drive a TC and aim a TC. You know, you sort of get
Also
going.
say, I put in new bushings at the same time because I had to take it apart anyhow. And those forward bolts are a real joy to get at. I had to drop the lower control arm and pull out the coil spring and reach up through that cavity to try to get that bolt out. And I was wondering why they told you to loosen up the steering rack. Well, you need to loosen that to get that cross member to drop enough to get that bolt out.
Well, because when you put in those caster shims, you're changing the position of the front cross member, and the rack and pinion is attached to that with a pinion that comes up into the cockpit. And so you got to shim that rack and pinion a lot to make up for that. But you say that in the end, that your steering now is much easier than it was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a bucket of bolts going over the railroad tracks.
Well, that's the bushings.
Yes, I know.
But the steering effort is a lot less. So, okay. How long would you say? I mean, if you're going to do it again, now that you've already done it, how long would you say that would take you to do?
Well, I don't work that fast, but it took me about 4 hours. I'd say
For the
about
whole
4
thing?
hours. Yeah,
Oh, that's pretty fast.
yeah.
Okay. And Pat G says, oh, wait, I've got to ask you, where are you from?
Elgin, South Carolina.
Okay, all right, Judd, that's not too far from you. So all right, well, thanks very much. Pat G says he installed the Brown and Gammons kit, which, you know, it's another, apparently you're talking, Pat G, you're still on here?
Yes. Yeah.
So-
I'm here, John.
Okay, so that's the same caster kit, right? I mean,
Well,
it's the same idea.
Much cheaper. and uses individual shims for the bolts, not one long shim that goes between
Okay.
the tub and the cross member.
How long did it take you to install that?
Well, I did a complete front suspension
Oh,
job.
okay.
I
All
dropped the cross member, cleaned the rust off. So
Oh my gosh.
it was, it was a
Days.
week and a half. Yeah.
Days. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All
Well
right.
worth it though.
Okay. What year and model do you have?
That was on my 73 MGB. But also, John, I'd like to point out, I did a little research and looked at the caster settings that MG used on that beautiful Isagonis design front
Yeah.
suspension that they used from the TD up through 1980. Over the years, they went from 2 to 3 degrees of caster all the way up to 7 degrees. So, if you're finding turning your MGB is like trying to steer a truck, it's because there's so much damn caster, which is why the
Okay.
caster correction kits are so popular.
Okay.
Well worth doing. Yeah. Especially if you put a smaller steering wheel.
Especially. And how'd you shim your rack and pinion? Same way, just trial and error with
Yes. And there were
washers?
shims included in the kit.
Very cool. Very,
Yeah.
very cool.
Very well engineered kit, good instructions, and much more reasonable than the other kits, particularly the Costello one, which is very, very expensive.
Just as a note to everybody, Brown and Gammons is a large MG firm in England, in Baldock, Herefordshire, run by Ron Gammons and the late Jerry Brown. I think Jerry's passed away. They broke up not too long after they got going, but they're a massive supplier of parts in England, as is Moss Europe, as is the MG Owners Club, and then there are the smaller guys out there that have stuff too. But Brown and Gammons is a big thing, and it's no more expensive. In fact, Pat says it was less expensive. And if you order the parts, they come in about the same amount of time if you order them from the major supplier in this country. So there's no real downside to ordering from there, and they're happy to take your charge card. And it isn't like England of 50 years ago where the box appeared wrapped in some terrible paper that is TEARABLE, terrible, wrapped in string, and it looked like if the postman had to take it to your next door neighbor, it would have fallen apart. The stuff all comes packed correctly and shipped nicely now. So
Yeah, and I was lucky in that it was delivered via a good friend of mine's suitcase. Even better.
okay, all right. Where are you from, Pat?
San Diego.
Okay, all right. Gosh, now just out that way. So
Right.
okay, so here we got Bob and Gloria. We have a question about the wiring loom that goes to the brake lights. You got to unmute yourself though. There we go.
I lost my brake lights. And
Okay.
so first thing you think of is a switch. Power come out of the switch, good. No power back by the brake lights. Then we peeled back the tape and got good power there. We traced that whole wiring loom. I could not find a place where it was scraped or missing. And back behind the axle, some of the tape was loose, but there was no open wires. So I tested there and I didn't have any power there. So we ran a wire and ran it through the proper loom and everything, ran it all the way to the back, and we have brakes now. But what puzzles me, according to the wiring diagram, there's supposed to be a connector somewhere. And if it's in it, we couldn't find it. If it's in that wire loom, I wasn't going to unwrap the whole thing.
No, the connector is not in the wiring loom. It's at the rear of the right front inner fender where the main loom meets the rear loom. So the main loom's got 50 wires, right, or something. I don't
Yeah.
big, the main loom. And then the rear loom has about a dozen wires.
Okay.
And that would be where that connector would be. It's green with purple. I mean, those are the wire colors. So,
Right.
so if you go and you look in that jumble of wires right there, and chances are it's just a failed female Lucas connector, you know, like
Like they all do.
eventually. Well, I mean, what year's your car?
Early 74.
Yeah,
I
okay,
got
so.
492,000 miles on the same wear.
Yeah, so it's, you know, that Lucas connector's passed the test, probably, you know, so, but it's sometimes like, if you have a problem in the front end, in front of the radiator, and you got some dicey, dodgy connections up there, my suggestion is just pull them all apart, clean the bullets. All you do is hold them hold the wire up tight against the bullet and just brush them a couple of times with like a brass wire brush, and get new Lucas female connectors. And if you want, use the dielectric grease. And of course, it's nice to have that Lucas paddle crimping tool to push the bullets into that female connector. But
We've quite regularly had to clean those in the front, and that's what gets most water and all that, and
right,
we got to clean them. But once again, I was irritated with the Haynes manual because it shows a connector in the rear. Haynes is, they
no, you
they made a
can't.
mistake with the timing gears too, the timing chain. And
You have to, the best, you know, the best workshop manual is the workshop manual for your car, which is the blue covered one, the blue loose leaf. If you get an original one, or you can buy one from Haynes, you know, excuse me, the republishers, Bentley.
yeah, we had one of those ones that kind of fell apart through usage.
Well, all that is just a reprint of the original factory book. So you're well advised to get another one of those. Find it on eBay. Find it on.
Yeah, I'll find it.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
problem.
You can get one for $10. You can buy a brand new one, of course, for $80, but probably find a good used one someplace.
that's
And send me an email, and I'll send you your wiring diagram for your car.
that would
Yeah.
be good.
Send me the VIN, and
I appreciate that.
I'll make sure that you get the right one. So
And you know, it's I hear people always complain about electrical problems with MGs. We've had, once we learn just to clean things, there's no problem with the electrical. Clean the fuse box. It'll look clean, but you clean it and everything works good.
we discovered that at my shop. We had our complete lubrication, which how often should I do that? It's like, well, how much money you got? But I told people, I said, you know, every 5 years, every 10, 15,000 miles. But we took the post off the battery, took the battery out of the car, washed it, cleaned the post, spread the clamps, put post protectors on it, tied it all back down, got that done. Took the fuse box off the car, sandblasted it, you know, and then snapped the fuses back in. So, yeah, one of my young guys, Craig Wood, this is way back in the days of 614 Eastern, customers standing there, and we're doing a lube on the guy's car, and Craig rips all the wires off the fuse box, and he's undoing it. And he looks up and he sees that the customer's looking kind of frightened, you know, and Craig says, "You know where all these wires go, don't you?"
That's good.
Anyway,
You know, I had my first British car was a 64 Austin Healey Sprite. It came with that loose leaf book. I didn't know how valuable that was. I let it go with the car when they sold it. But it would tell you things like, at night, take your battery out, take it in the house. And then it'd tell you how to straighten the fenders. And it was just an incredible manual. I never did take the battery out.
no, there's some stuff. I've got a little essay that I did about the TD workshop manual, and the guys that did the electrical part of it. I don't know why they got so much precedence. There's like 2 full pages on the battery and how to check the acid and how to add water to the sulfuric acid when you're putting it back in and to get the right specific gravity. And it just goes on and on and on. And today you go, dude, I mean, just throw the battery away and buy another one, you know?
My best test is I take it out. If I suspect the battery, if it's been in there a long time, take it up to AutoZone to one of the ones I trust. They test it, tell me if it's good, bad, or otherwise, and then I go to someplace cheaper and buy a battery because they're really expensive.
Geez, how nice is that?
Yeah.
Well, Sears would also check a battery, but their meter always said faulty. Always,
Yeah.
no matter what, you know? So anyway, hey, thanks a lot. And Bob and Lori,
Thank you.
where are you from?
Strongsville, Ohio, right outside of Cleveland.
Okay.
And we'll see you at,
We're hoping to be at Altoona.
Oh, great. Okay. All
so you're
right.
gonna do a rolling tech session there?
Yeah, I always do. Yep.
Tell me how bad my car is.
I'll find the fault in your brake lights.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question up here we got from Michael Baeta. He says, I've got a rebuilt 1622 engine with 8,000 miles on it and was told by the engine builder to use zddp oil additive to increase the zinc and phosphate content of the oil. So, Michael, are you on?
Yes.
Okay, so you were told correctly, but the easier way to do this is to buy the oil with the zinc in it already. So
That's the second paragraph there.
there's a second paragraph. Oh, after doing some research, I found the non-synthetic Valvoline VR1 racing oil. Yep, more in, yep, that's correct. So anyway, so that Valvoline VR1 is great stuff. There are other oils too. Brad Penn is one, but it's hard to find that. And somebody just alerted me to another one. When I was out in California, we're trying to get good oil pressure in an MGA. And the guy had a case of some kind of plastic bottles that were gold in color, and it was high zinc oil. I don't remember the name of it.
John?
Yeah.
John,
Castrol GTX now has a classic oil with zinc in it, but it's very hard to find.
you find it at Walmart, and that's the only
Yes.
place so far.
John,
Yep, me too.
Amazon also has Brad Penn for about $7.75 a quart.
Okay.
You can
So
buy
anyway,
my case.
Michael, the bottom line is yes, use high zinc oil.
But with that Valvoline VR1, I don't need to add ZDDP or
No,
VGMOA or anything like that, right?
no, it's all set. I went to an oil discussion about oils some time ago with our British Motor Trade Association, and the guy was selling oil, but then he had high zinc oil. And someone said, well, why not just buy it in the can and add it in? He goes, all right, so what are you going to play, home chemist? He says, what's going to happen with that ZDDP? Is the cleaner in the oil going to sweep it up, render it unusable? Is it going to sit in the bottom of the sump? How do you know it's going to do what it's supposed to do? The chances are it's going to do what it's supposed to do. But the bottom line is you really don't know. So you buy the oil that's already prepared with the zinc in it, and that Valvoline VR1. The Castrol GTX Classic, I think it's called, it's got another name on it there too, I think, is high. Brad Penn. You can find it. So use that stuff.
And the 1622 engine, in fact, all the MGA they're tappet engines, right?
Flat tappet, meaning
Flat tappet.
that they don't have hydraulic lifters. Hydraulic lifters are common with American cars. I don't know. I'm not a car guy, but I do know that V8 engines, after a certain point, used hydraulic lifters, and the pressure on the lifter between the lifter and the cam isn't as great because there's oil within the lifter itself that gets squished out of the way. So the flat tappet wreaks havoc. I mean, here you are lifting this heavy lifter 1/4 of an inch. It's just, like once every other revolution of the engine, and it accelerates it really fast. Oh my gosh. You've got to have this film between the tappet and the cam to protect the tappet and the cam. And the zinc, I can't tell you what it does. I'm not a metallurgist, but the zinc does something in there. Every now and then I run into somebody who says, I don't use that stuff, never had a problem. But if it is snake oil, it isn't very much. And everybody's on board with using it. All the flat tappet guys, all the American car guys, all the British car guys, everybody uses it. So.
And
What's the name of the gas one?
I have another BMW, and sounds like that VR1 can be used pretty much in any car. I mean, it doesn't hurt
Well,
anything.
it doesn't matter. The reason that all oil used to have enough zinc in it.
Right.
And then the federal government demanded of the automobile manufacturers that the catalytic converters last 100,000 miles. Well, that last thing in the P, in the zddp, the P is phosphate. Phosphate gets into the catalytic converter and covers up the platinum and renders the platinum inoperable to do its catalytic job between the unburned gasoline and the extra air that's being pumped in. So it can no longer convert the carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide. So the automobile manufacturers were faced with the option of either making the catalytic converters bigger, equals more dollars, or convincing the oil companies to take out the zinc. So we lost, but only for a while. Now we got oil back that works for us.
And John, you can buy the Brad Penn at most speed shops.
Okay.
That's where I found mine.
What's the name of the Castro oil?
It's Castrol GTX, but it says classic on the bottom. It's not the standard 2050 GTX that they have in the store. That's why Walmart was the only place I could find it.
Also at Team Triumph, Scott Harper sells the Brad Penn.
Yeah.
And our club has an arrangement with Brad Penn dealer, and we just buy it by the case. And it's like the guy said, it's about $7 a jug.
Yep.
We don't use a lot of oil. I've just put roller lifter in my TD, but I still am using the Brad Penn just because that way I only have to have one kind of oil in my garage.
Yep. Sounds good.
Is that all you're? I just bought the Valvoline VR1 off of Amazon, 3 5-quart things for like $65. So
Sure.
it's like $4 a quart, which is obviously very inexpensive.
The deal.
So that was just on Amazon.
Mike, what do you got going, Mike Green?
Just a quick question on the oil. I have been using the regular 2050. I have a 76 MGB. Is this oil only for the A's and the earlier models, or is
No, it's for all MGs.
Okay, that's good. I have a
I
couple
don't know about the V8s. I don't know if the V8s have got solid lifters or hydro. I don't know anything about that V8 engine.
Well, so far I've gotten lucky, John, but I got a couple of very, very quick questions related.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
To the engine, if you don't mind. On the top of my engine cover, there's a small film of oil, and I changed the cap a couple of times, but I've never really worked on a carbon filter. So I've had the car now 25 years, but I've never touched the carbon filter. And I just wondered, is that a typical thing you see in a 76 that's driven occasionally? Is that unusual, or is that okay?
Well, geez, the standard line is all of our cars leak oil. The only time it doesn't leak oil is when it's, not running or out of oil. So there's always some film up there. The film obviously is drafting or getting blown out somewhere. And if it's getting blown out the valve cap, which it can't because it's sealed, but if it is, it could be that there's something wrong with one of the tubes going to or from the charcoal canister. But if the charcoal canister gets pressurized, then the car doesn't run. So, trying to get rid of it is better. Just have a rag, and every now and then when you check the oil, just the bugs, you wipe it off. I want to just say that they all do it to some extent or another. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff in there is flying around. It might be a little tiny bit of oil mixed with dregs of fan belt, that are getting thrown back. I mean, it's so hard to say.
And last question is a very quick one. Battery keepers, does anybody online use them? I don't drive my car every day, my MG, I drive it occasionally. Has anybody been successful with a battery keeper? And the reason I ask is, down in Delaware, we've got a beach place, and there was a house that caught fire from the garage. And that raised all the issues in my mind about batteries and charging them and being safe and so on. So that's why I'm asking the question, is there one you recommend and you feel it's pretty safe and easy to use?
Well, chances are the more expensive ones are the better ones. Chances are. I bought one to put in my daughter's car from Napa, and it was the better part of $50. And I hardwired it right into the fuse box. I didn't go back to the battery, and just to the fuse box and ground, bottom fuse, and left the plug there so she could plug it in any time. And the whole idea is that it charges the battery only when it needs to charge. But there are a lot of people who won't leave their dryer on or their dishwasher on when they leave the house because they've heard of people whose dryer or dishwasher have caught on fire while they weren't there, even when they were there, and done damage. So I haven't heard myself of any of these battery tenders. I think that's a trade name, but failing and catching fire. But could it happen? Absolutely. So you want to buy a good one.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else weigh in on battery? I know we've talked about this before, but maybe a couple sessions ago, but those battery tenders are really, really nice.
I think most players are with ion batteries on electronic equipment. They get hot as heck.
Yes.
When they get old. So I haven't seen it with lead acid. I've got a tender on mine. Not to contradict you, John, but it's the cheapest one I could find. I bought an expensive one that broke, and they had one over the Lowe's. I think it cost me $15, and it does have the electronics in it that it cuts out. It flashes when it's not charging, and when it's on steady, it's charging, and it's great. I just keep the car plugged in all the time.
Shuts off.
Thank you.
Hey, John.
Yeah, Judd.
Jay Miller.
Yeah.
Regarding battery tenders,
Yes,
does
sir.
anyone have experiences that one is better than another? There are so many brands now, and they vary in costs. Is there any benefit in one over another?
I just bought a cheap trickle charger for both my cars. I use them in the wintertime. I don't start my car that often in the winter. And I've had no problems with them, had it for years. And keeps the battery up. So when the temperature goes above 40, I go out and start the car and run it at a high idle for half an hour. But it does, I've had no problem. They didn't get hot. There's a little red light that tells you when you're charging. And they said it was just a cheap, I don't even remember how much I paid for them. It's probably more now than what I paid for them.
I would just recommend one with a microprocessor in it and not the float style. The floats have been known to fail much more often.
Interesting.
John?
Interesting. A float style and a microprocessor. Okay.
You're talking about the difference between $10 at Harbor Freight and $50.
Right.
Never heard of a float style. What does that mean?
Oh, NOCO is the manufacturer, and they're good for our lead acid batteries. They're even good for the new style batteries used in electric lawnmowers and battery operated toys. It will charge everything that's on the market. And it's called NOCO. They're about $50. I also have a battery tender, which is very good too. But this new NOCO is the way to go.
Where'd you buy that, George?
I got this on Amazon.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, you can find anything you want or need
Okay,
is there, unfortunately.
all right, Mr. Brown's trying to weigh in here from Windsor, but we're having a hard time with the audio.
Yeah, just a bunch of my friends did a lot of research, and one of the best ones they've.
No, you're too muted. I just can't hear it. I don't know why. It sounds like you've got a pillow between yourself and the microphone.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it on a chat.
Yeah, I just can't. I can barely understand you. So
Okay.
sorry. Next time, or anyway. Okay, so Mike Green, where are you from?
Well, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Originally from Ireland, but I had an MGB in England, and then I came to Chicago and bought one there, and now I live in Maryland. I've had the 76 one since I was 50, so it's still running. It was one of the cars in the Lincoln presidential parade when he was taking the greetings out in his state where he comes from, and the guy said he bought it in Maryland, but he went out to get it and drove with his toes and his fingers crossed the whole way back to Maryland. And I've had it ever since, and I keep my toes crossed too.
Good for you. Okay. So on our chat section, Rob Fielding says greetings from New Zealand, where it must be about probably 9 o'clock. No, it's not 9 o'clock in the morning. Must be, 6 o'clock in the morning? I don't know if
1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, just after lunch.
Oh, it's just after lunch. Oh my gosh. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. And Gerald Stanley is greetings. Rob, good day from Kentucky. Okay. Steve Olson, Castrol Classic. Steve Olson's asked, does Castrol Classic have enough zddp for our engines? And I'm just sure that it does. Tony Choviak's been a proponent of it here, and he wouldn't be using it if it didn't. So, and David Wren from New Zealand, how do you do? So I got to tell you, the guys from New Zealand, my all-time favorite MG movie was done by Amy. I can't think of Amy's last name. Her dad was involved heavily with the Auckland MG Car Club. MG's Forever. Oh my gosh, that is absolutely, totally my favorite MG movie of all time. She quit and quit New Zealand and works for, I think, a television station in Australia now. But you can find it on Hulu. MG's Forever. It's worth watching. Oh my gosh. So, all right, from Rob Fielding. I've got a 73 BGT. It says New Zealand new, so must have bought it there. It's been a good daily driver in the 5 years I've owned it. It's pretty honest, but rust is brewing. Usual suspect, castle rails and behind. So, you know, the first thing you do is try to stop the rust from continuing. And the only way to stop the rust from continuing is to stop the oxygen from getting to it. And you do that with oil. Oil, you fog it with oil. You can take the sill treads off and drill some holes in there and put a wand down in there and just flush it with oil. Just shoot it up with a lot of oil. Unless you're going to work on it pretty soon, because if you're going to work on it, you don't want it all oily. So anyway, but just to hold it, oil is your friend, oil and grease. I mean, whether you know, there's wax oil, there's all that kind of stuff you can get in there, but the whole point of it is to cover the metal so that the oxygen can't get to it. But that's a huge project. Changing the castle sections and the sills and so forth. In the end, it involves cutting off the bottom of the front fender in place from the center of the front wheel arch along the chrome strip and down, and then cutting the section out of the rear fender the dog leg, we call it, just in front of the rear wheel. But you have the repair piece in your hand before you do any cutting. That then exposes the entire length of the sill. And the sill is made, I knew this question was coming up. I would have grabbed my sill section, but the sill section is made up of 5 pieces. And any one of which or a combination of which can be faulty. Just because you buy the whole sill doesn't mean you have to replace the whole sill. You can flange it or butt weld it into place, but any place where it's rusty, you've got to change it because rust is like cancer. It just keeps going. You can't stop it unless you cut it out. So anyway, I hope that's, Rob, there's 100 videos up and information from everybody from Moss to MG Owners Club. And so good luck. From Tony. Tony, I recently built the front end on my 76 midget. And when complete completely aligned the front end, after aligning, the steering wheel is not dead center when the vehicle's tracking straight. What's the best way to realign the steering wheel with the front tires? Okay, this is an easy one. Tony, you still here?
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay, all right. So if the wheel is tipped to the right,
Which it is.
How far is it turned? Is it turned like 5 minutes?
No, I probably, it's no more than 2 or 3 degrees off.
All right, okay. So which way is it turned? Left or right?
Right.
It's turned right. So that means that you've got to loosen the tie rod on the right front and tighten the tie rod on the left front into the tie rod end. And
Okay.
you do it exactly the same amount because it's already been aligned. So the wheels stay tracked the same. So you're gonna loosen the jam nut and unscrew the tie rod from the right front tie rod end, say 1 full turn. And then you go to the left front and undo the jam nut and tighten it up 1 full turn. Then go out and drive it and see how close you are.
Okay.
So that's just an essential necessary part once that all gets done. So, and if it's off more than a couple degrees, you can pop the steering wheel off and recenter the wheel. But if you're only off just like a minute or 2, then I call it a minute rather than a degree, but a minute or 2, then you have to adjust the tie rods into the tie rod ends.
Okay, thank you.
So where are you calling from, Tony?
Cape Cod.
Cape Cod, all right. You guys just got a storm there or something?
Yeah, it turned out to be not much here. Just,
Well, they're all out there, the sky's falling, and after you hear that 20 times, you tend to think that they don't know what they're doing, and then of course, you wish you'd listen to them. It's frustrating. We're in West Michigan, and everyone jokes here that these are the only weathermen who can be wrong half the time and still keep their jobs, but that's probably a joke about all weathermen.
very unpredictable hurricane and turn in and really get into Rhode Island more than hitting Massachusetts.
Hey, good luck. Your car looks nice there in the background.
Thank you.
Dave Smittle. Dave Smittle. Hi, John. After you talk about front end vibration, I'd like to ask you about my rear end vibration with my 47 TC. No vibration off the steering wheel, rather it's felt via your rear end coming up through the seat. I just put a new Ensign B5 tires on, and I think my assumption is correct that it's misaligned in the back because the Firestones I took off were bald on the rear, yet still had fairly good tread on the front. Suggestions. So anyway, Dave, are you still on?
Yeah, I am, John.
Hey, great. So anyway, you're talking about the side of the the tires, the tires in the front of the car had tread and the ones in the back didn't?
Right. The rear ones were bald, and I don't feel any vibration through the steering wheel, but it wiggles your rear end in the seat.
Go for the drive shaft first. Take the drive shaft off, easy enough. That's a huge, I mean, that thing is like that big around, you know, and I can't get back far enough, you know, it's like 3.5 feet long. Well, it's not 3.5 feet, but solid 3 feet long. And
Yeah.
that's, I mean, it's turning at engine speed. So if there's any tiny bit of imbalance, then someone put it in a vise to change the U-joints. That's it. I go for that first.
All right. And there's no real way to align the rear of the car.
No.
Just the
No,
front.
and alignment itself doesn't cause the vibration. You know, when we're talking about the front end, we're talking about caster, camber, and toe.
Yeah, the toe-in is great. The car drives really comfortably. The toe-in is great.
Yeah, well, the rear axle can't, the wheels can't be they can't have toe in or toe out, the rear wheels, and they can't have camber because the half shaft would snap. If the half shaft was going on an angle and turning, it would snap in short order. So the wheels, I'm sure the wheels are tracking true back there. Now you might have, you know, you might change the wheels from the front to the rear and see what difference that makes. That'll tell you whether it's the wheels or not. And it's either the wheels or the drive shaft. But if it's up through your butt, it's the drive shaft. 99 times out of 100.
Okay.
Hey, John, cool. I have a suggestion for Dave.
Yes.
My TC drove oddly, and I had unusual rear tire wear. I finally took it to an alignment shop, and we discovered that the frame was bent in 3 directions. Once it was straightened, all the problems went away.
So, Jim, did you use the alignment shop in Talmadge?
No, I used the one in Kent. Trying to think of the name of it. I think it was Mike Sabetti. They really didn't want to do it. I sort of threw myself on their mercy, and they agreed to put the car on the alignment rack. And when they did, we were very surprised. Once they get all the pins set and everything aligned, the car was a sweet driver after that. The other thing that mine did was at about 50 miles an hour, it would start this funny hula going down the road. And that was the thing that tipped me off that something was wrong more than I knew how to fix.
Okay. Thanks,
So
Jim.
the alignment shop was a big help. Good luck with that.
Jim, approximately what did that cost you? $500 or something?
No, I think it was about 3.
Okay. All right, because that's a big job to strap that thing down, and they got, you know, they got all that laser alignment stuff, but they don't have any specs, you know, so.
Well, there's for setting the frame, but I don't know anybody that knows how to read it. Is there any possibility that the rear axle can be not exactly perpendicular to the correct car store?
If the frame's
I thought about that too.
Sure. I mean, if your track, you know, I mean, if the track is off, then you're driving down the road, you know, crabbing. You know, you can always have somebody drive behind you and just tell you if you know, the human eye is so its ability is so great. But I go for that drive shaft first if it's a vibration, you know, in your butt.
Thanks, John.
So, and Jim, thank you very much for weighing in about that frame straightening. That didn't hazard upon, I didn't hazard upon that. So Dave, where are you from?
I'm in Ada, Ohio.
Ada, Ohio. And Jim, where are you from?
Kent, Ohio.
All right, Ohio guys. Okay.
Hey, hey, Dave, I'll see you in Marblehead.
Yeah, right. If anybody's interested in our Marblehead meet, it's the weekend right after the Put in Bay Road Race reunion. you can go to ohiogof.org.
Yes, Gathering the Faithful, ohiogof.org. Okay. What weekend is that?
September 24, 25, 26, right after the road race reunion on the island. Put in Bay.
Okay.
Come off
Okay.
the island and come straight to our event. They're minutes apart.
Okay, very cool. Anyone who- in Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, why not? Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, John.
Gerald Stanley to everybody. Gerald Stanley, and we've got another NZAC guy here. Rob, was that a local CKD assembly? Is Gerald still on? Maybe from New Zealand?
Yeah, I'm here, John.
All right. Okay. So where are you from?
I'm from New Zealand, but I'm in Kentucky. I've lived here longer than anywhere else now.
All right. Okay. Okay. And you're asking Rob if his car was a CKD, which is a completely knocked down, like Charlie Kilo Delta CKD, because of the tax man, the cars were exported from England, not complete. And as a result, they could get into the Commonwealth countries without having to pay exorbitant taxes. And then they were
without having to have
assembly was
access to
there.
overseas, without having to have access to overseas funds at the time. So yeah, there was a CKD assembly plant in Thames that assembled a whole bunch of British Leyland vehicles through the 70s. And I was wondering if MGs were ever assembled there. I don't know.
I know they were assembled in Australia.
Yeah, I don't think they assembled them here in New Zealand. Most of the ones I've seen have been imported. Mine was from both two I've had from the UK, but they did do them in Australia.
When they shut down the plant in Australia, they carried a 6-sided coffin instead of an 8-sided coffin. They really hammed it up. So that was on the cover of Safety Fast or something years and years ago. Oh my gosh. So, okay, well, let's see. Gerald is from Kentucky, but he's really from where, Paikakariki or where?
Auckland, Tauranga, Katikati, that whole North Island.
Okay, all right.
Region of areas.
Okay, from Pat G to everybody, real wheel balance is on the car balance. So that's there's lots of different ways to balance a tire, and whoever they were, used to do it on the car. That was the best way. It takes into account everything. The brake drum, it just takes into account everything. But most places don't do on the car balancing. I don't know why. There was an electric motor that they'd put down underneath the wheel with a great big drum on it and spin it up until it was doing about 80 miles an hour. Chances are OSHA had something to do with slowing that down. That's what my alignment shop said, but I don't know anyone who does on the car balancing anymore. I just don't know. Okay, here we got iPad, whoever iPad is, with a 1975 MGB, a long tail of woe on engine idle. Any advice welcome. So iPad, are you still on here? We got 141 people. So iPad, you still with us with your 75B with a bad idle? Talk to us a little bit about it. If not, I can make a few comments. I assume, of course, that a 75B, since we're most of us are from here, it's got the combination manifold with the Stromberg carburetor. The combination manifolds warp. That means that the inlet pulls away from the
Am I coming through now?
Yes, gotcha.
Oh, okay. This is my first time. Be gentle with me.
And where are you calling from?
From Oakville, Ontario, Canada.
Okay. And you've got it's a Stromberg car, right?
No, I don't want to go for too long a tale here. It was a 75 body restoration and boxes and boxes of parts. So the engine was toast, it was rusted. So I picked up an 18GH unit, an earlier unit, and twin SUs on it. And everything went okay, but the idle was terrible. So tinkered around all kinds of stuff. Eventually thought, well, the carburetors, twin SUs, HS4s, I'd done the best job I could on them out of choice of 4. I made the best 2 I could out of the 4. Thought, well, probably there's something wrong there. So I bought a Weber downdraft and put that on. Chug, 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 bonk, bonk, bonk. Terrible idle, rattle, bang, useless. Plugs black as heck. So did all kinds of timing, chain timing, did the workshop manual method of valve timing, of taking both sprockets off, lining them up on the bench with the dots, putting them back on, chug, 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 bang, bang, bang. Okay, so then went with a cylinder head. I'd already done a valve job on the head that was on there. Got hold of another head, did a valve job on that, put that on, chug, 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 bang, bang, bang. Sorry, a long tail. In amongst all this, I tried a vacuum gauge and I was getting about 10 inches of mercury.
Oh, that's awful, yeah.
Right. So that was really bad. Couldn't figure it out. Oh, it's been months, been trying everything. And just today, I got a new vacuum gauge. The vacuum gauge I've been using came from England. It was 50 years old. But I thought, let's not trust that. So I bought a new gauge. Just today, just checked that. And it's cranking from 10 to 18. Click, bang, 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 really, really backwards and forwards between 10 and 18.
Like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why you can't see me. I don't know how to do this. So I'm coming to the conclusion now, it must be piston rings. The compression.
No. Is your compression consistent?
It's not bad. I've got 120. I checked it just now. 120, 125, 130, 125.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's not the rings. Yeah. It's not the rings. You haven't mentioned anything about the timing. What kind of distributor do you have on that?
It's the original.
Has it got points or is it electronic?
It's points, yeah.
Okay, so set the timing. Do you have a dial back timing light available to you?
Yes, but I don't have any timing marks on the engine. But I've been, what I've done, I just keep cranking it up until it kicks back on starting and then pull back a bit until it...
Timing is critical. Timing is absolutely critical. So, you can call me tomorrow. I'm more than happy to go through this with you, but you need some sort of device to stop the piston, which is a long spark plug that fits in there. You move the engine one way and it stops. You move it back the other way, stop. You make a mark on the front pulley against some mark that you have on the front cover, and halfway between that, stop dead center.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you time it at 32 degrees before top dead center at full mechanical advance, vacuum disconnected. So if you got a point style distributor in there, then that's probably a 41-427.
It's the wrong. Yeah, it is the wrong distributor. It's from the 18V.
All right. Okay.
Engine.
All right. But still you're going for a total advance of 32 degrees. But if your compression is consistent and your timing's okay, then the only thing left is the fuel system, which of course you've been stuck on.
Right.
So I'm not sure it's the fuel system, but you can buy a can of carburetor cleaner and spray it between the head and the manifold. The manifold, the
Yeah,
carburetor, look for vacuum leaks. Because
yeah, I've had three different carburetors and three different inlet manifolds on there, and
okay, all right.
It ain't leaking there. But
All right.
the vacuum's low and the plugs are black.
That means it's too rich. If the plugs are black,
Yeah.
it means it's too rich, or the spark is too low and it's not always firing. So where are you from? Windsor?
Oakville. It's just west of Toronto.
Okay, all right. Well, apparently we can go into Toronto, we can go into Canada, even though you can't come here. Something weird is going on right now.
I don't know.
Anyway, I'd come up and fix your car, but I can't get there, and I'm real busy for the next month. But please call me tomorrow or call me the next day. I'll be on the road all day. I don't mind talking on my phone while I'm driving, even though you're not supposed to. And let's work through that.
Okay.
No, and I wonder, not an MG, but my 77 Ford F100 exhibited exactly the same symptoms he's talking about. And it was a vacuum leak in the manifold itself. Didn't have anything to do with the carburetor. Carburetor was fine, but it was just not being able to create a vacuum in that inlet intake manifold, and that it had the same symptoms. So that's certainly worth checking.
Yeah, I've had two different manifolds and two different sets of carburetors, downdraft Weber SUs. Yeah, kind of.
How old's the gasoline in the car?
Oh, it's a complete rebuild.
Okay, all right. Well, I can't. There's so many factors here that are involved. You've been pretty focused on the carburetors, and I'm not sure that that's where you should be focused. And I'm going back over on the ignition side to make sure that the wiring's hooked up correctly to the ignition coil, and you got a good enough spark.
Yeah, it's a good spark. I've got the old-fashioned timing light that goes in the high tension wire. She sparks nice and steady on all four cylinders.
Okay.
It's a real,
It's
real weird one.
It's one I'd love to help you solve, but we can't do it tonight. It's too complex.
So I shouldn't pull the head again tomorrow and get the sump off and start pulling pistons out. You don't think?
No. Don't do anything more until you get diagnosed.
I'm getting so frustrated. That's where I was going.
Yeah. I understand. I do understand. But there is a solution to it. Send me an email tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's you can go on my website, go right from there, or on John Twist at universitymotorsltd.com. And since I mentioned that in my website, I've got to mention again about my little PayPal button, my yellow PayPal button on my website at universitymotorsltd.com. Please go there and press the PayPal button and send me $5 or $10 or $50 or whatever. I'm not just talking to you in Canada. Of course, in Canada, you'd have to send me 100 for me to get 50. Oh my gosh, that's upside down right now. But anyway,
I sent you I've got your email. I sent you an email when I first started this project about aligning the steering rack.
Okay.
With gluing on a couple of wood screws onto the end of the steering column and the
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll send you an email tonight.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, good luck.
John, follow up on that. You said, what do you do if the spark is low and not always firing? With the prior gentleman's comment, how do you know if your coil is good or your spark is low?
It's a judgment call, but you can take the coil wire out of the center of the cap, hold it against the coil, dipstick or something, just crank the engine over, and you should get a spark that is, oh my gosh, pushing half an inch long. And just it's Now, the bottom line is that you want a spark that comes out of the spark plug wire that's about 1/4 of an inch long. You know, it's a pretty hot spark. But 75s have got a different wiring system. They've got 6 volts run to the ignition coil. It's supposed to
Yes,
have
mine,
1.5
mine has that. Yeah.
1.5 ohm
Yeah.
coil.
Yeah.
And sometimes you end up with a 12 volt coil and a 6 volt system. And so you only get half the spark you're supposed. There's just a lot of weird stuff here. So.
Okay, thanks.
Dan, where are you from?
I'm from Mequon, Wisconsin, just north of Milwaukee.
Yep, okay. Pat G, most tires are not round. Michelin's tend to be the roundest. Okay. Okay, we got Pat G. You can just, there we go. I'm just going to hit mute everybody here, not because I don't like you, but because we want background noise. John Fabre, are there good, reasonable, suitable aftermarket steel wheels that anyone knows of that people like? Obviously, they need the correct bolt pattern. It's 4.5 inch for 1/2 inch studs. Similar offset, that's critical. Diameter, 14 inches, etc. Perhaps with a semi-appropriate cosmetic pattern to look reasonably vintage. We're asking for a lot here. We're asking for a lot here, John. And he just doesn't want to spend $1,000 on alloy wheels. So send 4 of your old wheels to Diamond Wheel in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and get new rims put on them. The car isn't worth that much in its current state. Fixing wire wheels or replacing them certainly isn't an inexpensive proposition. So, John Fabry, are you still online?
Yes, I'm
Okay, all right. So you've got disc wheels or wire wheels right now?
wire wheels.
You have wire wheels. Okay, the problem with putting disc wheels on a wire wheel car is that they sit too far inboard and the inside of the wheel rubs the rear of the wheel arch and back. Now you can get past that and use spacers, but you got to take the hubs off, and you got to get disc wheel hubs and so forth if you're going to switch over to disc wheels. So some people have, everybody's got used wire wheels, but so do you. And I just want to tell you that no other wire wheel is better than yours. They're all used wire wheels or used wire wheels. But are you asking about wire wheels, or are you considering maybe you put disc wheels on it?
Well, currently the car has tires that are so bad that, it can't even be, driven on it. So I've got tires to put on it, but I'm expecting, worst case scenario when all of a sudden you've got these that are shot. So then, you're up against, well, what are your choices? And I've never had a car with wire wheels before, and I'm, just putting some steel, wheels on or something is.
So if you take your wire wheels and you take your screwdriver or a little tiny hammer and tunk every single one of those 60 spokes, they should ring. Bing, bing, when you hit them, bing, bing. But if they're loose, thunk, it just thunks, okay? And you got 60 spokes there. You can have 10, 15 spokes that thunk instead of ring, and you're still doing okay. They all ought to be tight, but if 10 or 15 of them thud, that's okay. Just get some tubes and put some new tires on your old wire wheels and go.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to start with for sure. But I'm just, my brain, goes around in the spare time and things like that. I can handle the spacers and things like that. I think the spindles are the same on the front, so that when you get the disc to the switch those, you solve that problem in the front, correct?
Correct. You need nothing other than replacement hubs. So you can get good used ones from Paul Deershaw at Sports Car Craftsman in Arvada, Colorado. He'll send you front disc hubs. He'll send you rear disc hubs, no problem. So, but I don't know of any disc wheel. There used to be a Saab wheel that people talked about, but you know, that this is even those,
So I was just curious if somebody, said, yeah, this, because I can start doing research for sure, but it was like, well, if somebody already says, yeah, these ones from a Toyota Celica, those ones are, common, or people use those or something.
Yeah. Does anybody unmute themselves and help us out with this? I hear
Is
it
it actually the housing is different, or is it just the axle stub?
Oh, the rear axle, the whole rear axle on a disc wheel car is an 1.5 inches wider overall than a wire wheel. So the wire wheel is narrower. It all has to do with the offset of the wheels. So the housing is different, and the length of the half shafts is different between the two of them. It's dramatic. So you can, I ran into that snag with my daughter's car. I rebuilt the whole rear end, put it in the car, went to put the wheels on it, and suddenly realized why they had these massive spring helpers on it and all this other stuff. It's like, oh, what am I going to do? So I took the studs out of the disc wheel hubs that were on there. I took the studs out, got studs that were 3/4 inch longer, and then made up I had some aluminum discs made up with a 4.5 inch bolt pattern that were 3/4 inch thick, and put those on first, and then put the disc wheels on, and you can't tell. Looks
I was
fine.
just curious. I didn't know if it was all that was different, because a lot of the American car, like, Fords and things like that, they don't necessarily change the housing, but they run axles that are different lengths. So
Yeah,
there's some adjustability in that part.
Yeah, in this little part of the automotive world with MG, the differential width changes.
Got it. Thank you.
Okie doke.
Nasty here from Florida.
Yeah, just a second, David. Where are you from, John?
Cleveland, Tennessee, just up the road from Chattanooga.
Okay, all right. David Massey.
Go ahead and spend the $1,000 per wire wheel, Coker tire. You'll be much happier. It'll dress the car up. You'll get oohs and ahs. I
totally like that idea, but there's better places to spend $1,000 to get the car, safe and mobile before I'm, as I mentioned to somebody, riding on gold-plated tires with, a beater. So
I agree, but you'll like it.
3 most important parts of the car: the brakes, steering, and the brake lights. After that,
it's in process right now.
After that, and the brakes all have to do with the wheels and tires too, because if the tires are scrap and it won't stop, So yeah. So okay, so here we got a note from Pat G, who says a combination of caster split and too much caster will cause a nasty shake. So Pat G, I'm unaware of this. Are you still online here? Because I don't even know what a camber split is. Does that mean one side's got a lot of camber and the other side doesn't? Pat G, are you still around? No, Pat G. So anyway, whatever camber split is. All right, so from Chip, Rukio, do MGB shocks require regular maintenance? Yes. It should be filled, or at least the amount of oil in them checked every 12,000 miles, every couple of years or so. There's a nut, there's a bolt on the shock, on the front shocks, that's easily seen right from the front. That's one of the last British threads left in the car. You need your 5/16 British wrench to get that undone, or your 13mm wrench works perfectly. To get to the fillers on the rear shocks, there are white plastic discs that big around that are located extreme left and extreme right of the battery box. And you can pop those out, and there's the bolt right there with a whole bunch of dirt and stuff around. So brush the dirt out of the way first, blow it off. And then fill the shocks with shock oil. Now, where do you get that? Hydraulic oil works, although the oil that's in your shock has got a seal sweller and an anti-foaming agent in it. Used to be able to buy shock oil, shock all from Castrol, but that's long since gone. Moss sells it. We used to have some stuff made up from us from Universal Oil Company in Ohio, Bob Mendelson's old business. We used to buy it in a 5-gallon pail, but and I used to sell it, but that was then. So anyway, the trick is to get the oil in. And what we did was take an oil can with a squeeze handle on it, put a little piece of rubber hose on the end of the oil filler, and then take a piece of 1/8 inch copper tubing, 3/16 copper tubing, and bend a hook in the end of it, put that in the rubber hose. Now you can fit that hook into the shock and go, and fill it until fluid comes out. And then you know it's full. So yes, Chip. Are you still on? Chip, are you still here with us?
Yeah, John, I'm here from southeast of Houston on Galveston Bay.
Oh, all right. Okay. So what's your temperature today?
Oh, it's been hot down here. It's about 100 degrees during the day.
Oh my God. What's your humidity?
110%.
Oh my gosh. So Judd, no more complaints about sweating walking from your house to your shop. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Anyway, Chip, did I answer your question about the shocks?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okie doke. Thank you. Okay, Rob Fielding has a note here to John Fabry. Have you checked out the MGB mini light wheels? I'm thinking this will be my choice after I deal with the body work. Yeah, well, that's that $1,000 or $1,200. So, okay, so Pat G said I once had Toyota wheels on my MGB. Okay, what Toyota wheels? That's the question. So, anyways, out there, maybe there's a couple of really great websites. Barney Gaylord's site is for all MGA owners is just the nuts. It's 4,000 pages of MGA, but some MGA stuff transfers over to MGB. That's his site is mgaguru.com, and Barney's great resource for all things MGA. But he's got things like shops. I just had a guy call me today. Says, where's the closest MG shop around me? He's looking for a windscreen, calling from Louisville. Apparently there aren't any MGB windshields available right now. And I said, hey, go on Barney's site and start calling shops. Somebody's got a windshield that they ordered for somebody they didn't pick up. So the other site is mgexperience.net. That's got a lot of Q&A in it, a lot of technical in it. But it's everybody gets to weigh in and everyone has an opinion, and sometimes it's hard to separate the wheat from the chaff. So Rob Fielding says, yes, they do require maintenance. That's the shocks. Check out David Russell Wilkes' excellent MGB full suspension rebuild on YouTube. So this is a pitch for David Russell Wilkes MGB front suspension rebuild on YouTube. So maybe he has something in there about the shocks. Okay, so from Jay, John, what would be the troubleshooting process when my car, after about 10 miles, shakes violently, truly violently, and then goes back to normal and doesn't go through that again until the next time it's taken out? Now, let's just break this down here. Jay, are you still on? This is a good one. So Jay drives this car for about 10 miles and then it starts to shake violently, truly violently. Then it goes back to normal and he doesn't have a problem until he takes it out the next time. it's not constant. It's terribly dangerous when it happens. I believe it happens when a few hundred yards after driving over a rough road. So my gut is if it happens every time and you're not taking the same route and following the same rough road, if we're not dealing with a rough road and shocks, that there's something going on with the tires, and the tires heat up. And somewhere between the time that they're cold and they get hot, something about the belts in the tire, you know, I'm don't know. That's, but Jay, are you still on here or not? I've called for you once here, twice. We're down to 125 people. Thank you everyone for hanging on. But anyway, that's, there, when you do have stuff that's loose in the front end and you go over railroad tracks or something, or bad shock, the car can all of a sudden start to shake. But it would continue to do that every time you either met that road speed or hit another bump. It wouldn't go back to normal and not go through that again until the next time you took it out. So the only thing I can think of it is this heat, and the only thing that heat's going to affect is a tire, not all the tires, just one tire. So I don't know. That's pretty bizarre. So we don't know where he's from. Tina, what was the timing setting again? Where's Tina? Tina, you can unmute yourself, but the timing is 32 degrees before top dead center at full mechanical advance, vacuum disconnected. 1945 TC through 1980 MGB. It has to do with the design of the cylinder head and the way it's done. So anyway, that's 32 degrees. That's not at idle. That's at like 4,000, 3,000 or 4,000 RPM. You put a timing light on it and you rev it up until the timing stops advancing. And when the timing stops advancing, it should be at 32 degrees before top dead center. The easiest way to find this is with a dial back timing light with a wheel or buttons on the back that you can set 32 degrees on. So if you got just a regular timing light and you got a 75 through 80 MGB, you can time that by making a new timing mark on the front pulley. But all the rest of the cars, you can't get there from here. It's frustrating. Craig Fowler. My steering wheel is about 30 to 60 degrees off center. Oh my gosh. Should I simply remove the steering wheel and reposition it? Yes. Yes. So when you do a front end work, the tie rod should be screwed into the tie rod ends the same number of turns. If the tie rod is turned into the left hand tie rod end, I don't know, 18 turns, then it should be turned into the right tie rod end, 18 turns. Once you get the front wheels aligned so they're absolutely straight, you're there. Now you go inside the car and the steering wheel is like, like 90 degrees off, 60 degrees off. At this point, you pop the steering wheel off. That's my #1 video. It's the first video I ever made, how to take the steering wheel off the car. 2 people are required. Do not do it yourself. 2 people, and it works every time. It just does. So you pop the wheel off, put the wheel on, put the nut on loose, go out and drive it. Ooh, it's still off. Pull over, stop, move it a tooth, get it as straight as you can. But it never ends up being perfectly straight. It's always one way or the other by a couple of degrees. At that point, you go in and adjust the tie rods in and out of the tie rod ends to straighten out the steering wheel in relation to the front wheels. So anyway, that's it. That's from Craig. So now we got Peter Koreski. John, I've read in the MG Experience that cams can wear with high mileage because the metal is soft, especially if you got a 1977 MGB. It has been said that the timing may have to be put at 34 at $3,000. Is this true because of a worn cam? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, once the cam is worn enough so that you can see it or measure it, then we're in a territory that I'm not used to. I don't know. I just don't even know. I can't imagine that would make a difference. But I don't know. There's a lot of people weighing in with a lot of information on MG experience. Not all of it is good or true, but I just don't even know. So Peter, are you still on?
Yes, I was just asking that question because I've having trouble trying to time my MG, and it's just I have it at the 32 right now, but I just felt that at times it's just I don't have the power, and if I just slightly advance it, then it gives me a little bit more power. But I didn't know if it was maybe a worn cam. And also I wanted to make a note of that, aligning the wheel. I've been balancing the wheels with that balancer on the ground on the car. I used to do that in the 60s. And I see why they took it away, because if the balancers, we had to have it at 65, 70 miles an hour. And if the person doesn't know what he's doing, and if that thing is not anchored right, it is really dangerous. When I got done balancing the wheels, I was sweating profusely, and this is in Denver, Colorado. I would be sweating because I was so scared waiting for something that balancer to just fly out somewhere. At 70 miles an hour, that thing, all it is, looks like a little mini vacuum cleaner that they have today. That thing's sitting on there right out in the open. That is really dangerous. I wish they could do something nice today for that, put in a cage or something.
That's probably why they don't do on-wheel balancing anymore. You know, it is. I mean, you take it up to 70, 80 miles an hour. So my motorcycle shop that does wire wheels, he says, well, we'll balance these up to 150. I said, don't waste your time. You know, the fastest anybody's ever going to go in a wire wheeled MGB is 90. You know, so yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Hey, you're very welcome. Let's see, Rob Fielding. If it's a beater, John, what I'm doing with mine is small cleanup jobs. It's amazing how a little bit better slowly accumulates. So from Rob Fielding, this is a comment about a rolling restoration. Every weekend, you just do something. Take something off the car. Take the air cleaners off, clean them, spray them black, put them back together. Great sense of satisfaction, and you're one step closer to a restored car. So, and you build confidence in your abilities, and you don't lose the use of your vehicle. So, all right. So from Mark Miller, Gary Stevens at Pico Wheel Service, Camarillo, California, or Camarillo if you're from California, was able to straighten my MGA disc wheels. So this is Gary Stevens at Pico, P-I-C-O Wheel Service, Pico Wheel Service in Camarillo, California. So maybe I heard that place this past week when I was out in California. Mark Miller, you still on? We're getting down to 10 o'clock too. But anyway, Pico Wheel Service.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, this is Mark.
No, that's okay.
Trying to unmute my computer. Actually, I met you at the Southern California MG event. It was
I knew I'd heard of this place. Okay.
Yeah, and I had a problem at I could spin the wheels, jack up the car, spin the wheels, and then they're out like 1/4 inch, 3/16 of an inch or something like that. And he was able to press them back in, and now I don't have any issues at speed. Where I was
Very
kind of
cool.
hopping around a little bit. So really good guy, been around for ages. His dad opened the shop in Los Angeles on Pico Boulevard, which is hence the name Pico. But when he retired, he kind of semi-retired, moved to Camarillo.
I'm writing this down because so many people ask. I tried a place in Stockton wheel, and I sent a wheel out there, and the sending a wheel out and back isn't inexpensive. That chewed up the better part of, I don't know, $80 or something or other, and they charged me another, I don't know, $50 or something or other, and I couldn't see that the wheel was any straighter when I got it back. But anyway, this is Gary Stevens at Pico Wheel Service, Camarillo, California. So thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I can do his contact information just so you have it on file.
Yeah,
he's like 70 years old, so he's not getting any younger, but does a great job.
And so, warning to everybody: send your wheels out there now. Yeah, well, wait till winter. Yeah. All right. Hey, thank you very, very much. It was a real pleasure having your club host me at those couple things, and I had a real good time. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks.
Jordan K, to everybody, without adding the shim kit or other parts, should I be able to correct the shake in my 72 MGB that starts at 65 miles an hour or so? Jordan from St. Augustine, Florida. Jordan K, are you still on?
I am.
Okay, so yes, you can. You got wire wheels or disc wheels?
It's a disc wheel car.
Okay, so same old stuff. Look at the wheels yourself. Just jack up one corner of the car at a time, spin the wheel and look at it. You can tell if it's running true or not, by looking at the tread on the tire, looking at the edge of the tire. And if it wobbles back and forth, you're screwed. No matter what you do, you're not going to be able to get the car to stop shaking. St. Augustine, you're across the state from Glenn's MG service, aren't you? In St. Petersburg. So
yeah, it's
St.
about 3 hours.
Yeah, St. Augustine, that's the oldest settlement in North America or something or other?
It is.
Yep. So anyway, so your 72B, you got 5 wheels. You have to choose the 2 that are the best, that are bent the least, and put those on the front of the car and get them balanced again. Very few people can balance them off the lugs rather than through the hole in the middle, but that's what you want. Call around and ask if anybody can center the wheels on the lugs, lug centric. If they probably not Discount Tire, where they tell you that it's illegal to put tubes in your tires because it'll catch on fire. Maybe somebody who's been in business for a long time, but anyway, that's it. And to make sure that your shocks are good. If the shocks are good and the wheels are balanced and the wheels are straight, you're going to get rid of as much shaking as you can. But there's no substitute for looking at them and spinning the wheel with your hand on them and feeling them as they spin round and round and feeling for flat spots, lumps. So
the wheels were balanced when I had the tires put on, but I'm not sure if they were hub centric or lug centric.
Yeah.
Are we talking like get a dial gauge on the wheel and see if it fluctuates, or not that specific?
Usually you can tell if they're out, but whatever you can do, you can't really put a magnetic based dial indicator on it because you rip the finger off it because of all the imperfections in the rim. But what you can do is take a jack stand and a long screwdriver and a pair of vice grips and snap the long screwdriver to the jack stand and put it right next to the wheel and just spin it and just watch it, and see if it's bent, see if it's moving in or out, and just compare all 4 of them and try all 5 of them, including your spare, and choose the two that wobble the least and put those on the front. Do you know for sure that your shocks are good?
The shocks are freshly rebuilt from
Okay. Apple or from Madison, Wisconsin?
I think it's the Wisconsin one. Is it
Yeah, okay.
worldwide or something like
Yep.
that?
Yep, I've got a shock out in the box out in my breezeway right now from Jane at Worldwide Imports. Yep. So it's not shocks, and chances are it's not anything but the wheel imbalance. So
I'll give it a shot. Thank you.
Okie doke. All right. Okay. Crystal Johnson in Texas. I finally finished painting and compounding my 70 MGB. I think that's like polishing, right? And the car shell is still on a rotisserie. The underbody has been coated with 3M Schutz rubberized underbody coating. I'm getting ready to install a new wiring harness, but the previous owner removed the old one without tagging the connectors. Besides looking at wiring diagrams, do you have any lessons learned? Yes, and I made a list of what all the wire colors are. And if you send me an email, I will send you back a note with the wires so that you know that green with white is right turn signal and green with red is left turn signal, as white is your fuel pump, and green with brown are your reverse lights, and green with purple are your brake lights, and green with black is your fuel sending unit. So yes, I do have all those. So you've got two things going on here. You've got logistically where to put stuff and how to hook it up. But I do have a list with all the colors on there of what they all fit. And if you send me an email, johntwist@universitymotorsltd.com, or go on the website, then I will send, and I'll send anyone that list too. It was made up mainly for like a 78 MGB. There's a lot of colors that I have in there that wouldn't show up on an earlier car. But anyway, yes, I can help out. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I'll get an email out.
Excellent, thank you. And I'm gonna take about one last one because I'm at 10:01 and I told my cousin I'd call her. She's in California. She's older than I am. She said, I don't go to bed at 7 o'clock. And I said, well, good, you know. From Eric Sims, question about starting my engine. We've got a 1960 MGA, starts fine. However, when I push the clutch in, it won't start. It turns over and tries, but no luck. When I release the clutch, it starts fine. Any thoughts? Yes, absolutely. And that is, you always start the car with your foot off the clutch. I mean, it should start with it on, but there's something dragging it down. So it must be a voltage problem. You must have too much of a voltage drop because of the extra drag. So there's something going on with the coil, or the wires or the points or something like that. But the only time you should have the clutch depressed is when you're taking off and changing gears. That's it. Start at neutral, idle at neutral, stoplight, stop sign, stop, start traffic, put it in neutral and let it freewheel. Your foot should never be on the clutch, ever, except taking off and changing gears. That makes your clutch last a lot longer too. So, but to answer your question specifically, when you have the clutch depressed, it puts an extra drag on the starter motor that then reduces the voltage in the whole system and drags it down. Right now with a starter motor spinning over, you might have around 10 volts or so available. Maybe it pulls it down to 9 and that's just not enough. If you've got a Pertronics in there or something, those are voltage sensitive. So maybe you're right on the edge of it working. That's what causing it to happen. So Eric Sims, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm here, John.
Okay, what kind of ignition do you have?
Electronic.
Bingo. So
Yeah.
that's it. So modern radios are like that too. If you've got a voltage problem in the car, the old tube type radios, the lower the voltage, the volume, you keep losing the volume. But with modern stuff with Zener diodes in it, either it works or it doesn't work. And I bet it's just enough. If you were to put a voltmeter on your car between, say, the white wires on the fuse box and ground and put it inside, and just watch what the voltage was when you're spinning it over and what the voltage was when you're spinning it over with your clutch depressed, I bet you're losing a volt, half a volt, and it's just at the threshold.
Okay, thank you.
Where are you calling from, Eric?
From Indianapolis, Indiana.
Hey, okay, all right. I just told somebody today about in Louisville looking for that windshield. I said, well, call Bob Connell. Maybe he's got a used one. I know he still isn't completely out of his shop yet. So.
Right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have to conclude here. It's 10:04. Thank you very kindly for being on tonight. Looked like we had maybe 130 people at the most, 150. I don't know. Doug Clark, when he's on, counts for me.
John, I am on. I did sign on late, about 8:30. The high water mark for me was 132.
132.
But that, like I say, I think it was probably higher than that, but you put an asterisk by that one.
Okay.
And
right.
I just wanted to, earlier, I did catch your comment about the three most important components of the car being the steering and the brakes and the brake lights. I think you forgot the important fourth one, or maybe the most important, the horn. So,
well, yeah, the horn's really important too. It is, but you got to be able to be long before the engine runs. You've got to be able to stop. You've got to be able to steer it, and to keep somebody from running up your rear end, you got to have brake lights. So I suppose I could add make
yeah,
it
the horn.
four.
Okay, we'll put the horn number 4 then.
Okay, all right.
Hey, John, early on, we saw 155.
Oh, all right. Hey, thank you. Okay. Bob and Gloria, thank you very much.
Sure, we always look at that.
Thank you. Thanks. Sometimes I glance over at it, but I'm as you can tell, I'm too busy talking, So anyway, and there were just so many more questions on here I just couldn't get to tonight. So let me encourage you to come back next time, which will be, help me out. Let's just take a look. Let me pull up my calendar. When's the next time? It'll be September 13th, right? Second Monday, September 13th. What's the problem with the 13th? Nothing. So we're on for the 13th.
There is no problem. That's my birthday. Thank you.
Okay. Happy birthday to you. I was just thinking about that today because when my kids were little, we never, it sounds like a funeral dirge when you hear a bunch of grandparents singing happy birthday. It's awful. And so I'd always play that Cut Off the White album with the Beatles, you say happy birthday. That was a whole lot more fun to play with the kids. They'd make a snake and run around the house and jump up and down so hard the record would skip. So.
John, about the spacer for the wheels.
Yeah.
AutoZone or Advance, I got, because what I have is one of those small spare tires, give me more room in the trunk.
Oh, all right, okay.
And I got one from either Advance or AutoZone. Comes 2 in a pack, and that works great. It gave me the right distance. And as far as for nice wheels, there's a Acme Speed Shop in North Carolina. Hap Waldrop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice guy, talkative. He'll talk your ear off, and he's enjoyable. I mean, I ordered wheels from him, and I was on the phone about an hour.
Hap is Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina. Yeah, one of those Carolinas, and but reasonably priced wheels for all of our cars.
Okay, thank you. Well, everybody can unmute themselves. We're gonna take a couple minutes just to say goodnight, and then I got to get on the phone and talk to my my distant cousin in Eureka, California. So Tony.
Thanks, John.
Always a pleasure.
Yep.
Thank
Yep.
you. Bye.
Hey, John, take care, man.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Greg, it's real
Guys,
nice.
thanks again as usual. Always enjoy it.
Hey,
You always
thank you.
Really
Well,
something.
Thanks,
Go
John.
Thank you,
go to
John.
my website, press the, press the link. Yeah.
Will do.
We
Yeah.
will do that.
So, all right, that's real kind. Hey, thanks everybody for being here, and especially the guys from New Zealand. Oh my gosh, that's nice. 1 in the afternoon. Nothing wrong with that, So it's pretty dark here. So
We'll see you Sunday.
yeah, absolutely. I'm Jim Pastor is having a technical seminar at his house on Thursday, Friday, and then the show is Saturday, Sunday. So Sunday's a real nice show. They at Del Grosso's. It's an amusement park, and they make spaghetti sauce. So it's a funny combination of businesses. But everyone gets a free container of Del Grosso spaghetti sauce for attending. So that's cool. And if you're signed up for Sunday, I don't know what the registration is this year. Well, it must be $30 around there. It includes a chicken dinner on Sunday at the show. I mean, it's just it's the least expensive, authentic British car show in the nation. It must be. Includes a meal, So
if you don't get the dinner, it's only $10.
Okay. All right.
You can't.
John, I'm here. It is just $10 to register without the dinner.
Oh, all right, Jim. Here we go. Jim Pastor, the main man there. So, all right. Okay. So there's Jim.
So we'll see you Wednesday.
You will see me on Wednesday. Yeah, I'm tomorrow. I got stuff going, and then 8 o'clock in the morning. I was going to drive my MGA out, but it's just like it needs a water pump, and so I'm going to cheat, drive the Chevy.
You can do that in an hour, that water pump.
On an MGA? Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. My hands don't work like they used to. I just got done trying to, I put the air conditioner in my daughter's 73 BGT, and when you turn it on, the belt would slip. It just, the resistance to turn of that compressor was so great. And we finally got out like a 4-foot pipe, just jammed it in there, pushed real hard and tightened it up. Anyway, yeah, anyway, no, it'd take me longer than an hour to change the water pump.
Nothing works like it used to. That's why I got Gloria to get into those hard places.
That reminds me, what's the record on a U-joint?
4.5 minutes. Now, I would be hard pressed to do that today. I really should try one. Maybe Jim, you're still on. Maybe we should try a U-joint when we're at Jim's place.
I think we did that one year here. We'll do it again.
And it was probably 7 minutes, but that's still pretty. I mean, help me out. That's still pretty fast. Yeah.
Yes.
If I'm using my own tools in my own shop, it always goes a little bit faster. So.
I'll line that up. We'll do that.
You had to do one on the side of the road one time.
I've done that too. I changed one in a parking lot in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, an MGA event around 1994, whenever NAMGAR had their GT in Winston-Salem. The guy had a bad U-joint. We jacked the car up, took the drive shaft out, and just like they show in the workshop manual, with a guy with a tweed coat, and a hammer, with a thing in his hand beating on it, you can do it.
Yeah, we were in New Mexico when the U-joint went.
Right outside of Roswell.
And so we're out, we pull off on this, it was solid tar, but right next to the desert sand, I put a wrench down and it disappeared. I had to dig through the sand to get it. And some guy stopped with a big flashlight and helped me.
Oh my gosh.
Together. And I broke 2 of the bolts. So I limped back into town and found a guy that works on foreign cars, and he made the 2 bolts for me, cut the heads and everything, charged me $15, and gave me all the coffee I could drink.
Oh, very nice. I had to change a U-joint at Jim Pastore's house about, when was that, 10 years ago?
Yeah,
This
on the
guy's
MGA.
got a bad U-joint. I said, hey, I'm real good at these things. That thing, oh my gosh, it hadn't been changed since it left Abingdon. I tell you, that thing was frozen solid in there. I did.
My vice handle is still bent from that.
Right. I did change it, but that was, I was with Caroline then, wasn't I?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was over 11 years ago now.
She was waiting here.
You have some interesting stories. I enjoy hearing them.
Whole lifetime, yeah.
We've had some interesting stories in our travels. We'll have to share.
450,000 miles driving your MGB, I bet.
492 now.
Excuse me, 492. Okay.
If it wasn't for COVID, it would be over 500,000. But
hey,
John, if you do drive your MGA, make sure that you check the weather report so you don't hit any rain.
The wettest I've been in my life was driving to Altoona, Pennsylvania. I left Grand Rapids, and between here and Ann Arbor, it was spitting. And I got to Ann Arbor, and from Ann Arbor down to Toledo, it was raining. And when I hit Toledo, it was a friggin' deluge. I don't have side curtains because in an MGA, I got other stuff in there. Where do you put them, So I was driving and most of I had the tonneau cover on the passenger side, and most of the water stayed out of the car, but enough water got in so that every part of me was wet and everything on my body was wet. And when I went to pay the toll at the Ohio, Pennsylvania ticket booth, I opened up my wallet and I had to peel the bills away from each other because they were sopping wet. I know, Bob and Gloria, you've got stories a lot like that. If you got 500,000 miles on your car, you've been wet too. But oh my gosh, I was so wet. I brought that car back and put it in the shop and took the seats out and the carpets out and hung it over the side and just didn't touch it for 2 days for it to ventilate. Oh my gosh, I was so wet.
the best place to go when it's raining like that and the bridges are all full of motorcycles is you find a little town with a car wash. Nobody's washing their car in the rain.
Okay. Yeah, we were driving up from, I think Carolyn and I gone to Rick Ingram's, I think for a real early NAMGBR meeting down in Illinois, and we're coming back up and it was getting pretty late on a Sunday and we could hardly breathe. It was so heavy. It was just, you're running at 60 miles an hour, but you could just hardly, and all of a sudden the heavens just opened and we both jumped out of the car and put the top up. And on an MGA, it's more difficult than on a B. And we still didn't have side curtains, but we wanted to get the top up. And when I got back in the car, my feet were squishing inside my shoes because my shoes had filled up with rain. It was that we were wet that time too. Hey, it's 10:17. I have to take my leave. So thank you everyone for being here. And Jim, I'll see you Wednesday night. Stop by the house and say hi and before I go down to the VA hospital there. Isn't that where the old hotel used to be? Did they wreck the old hotel? And
Yes, there's two new ones there now.
Okay, right.
They even have copper pipes in them, John.
Okay, all right.
Be careful driving to Altoona.
Yeah.
Have a safe trip.
Hey, thank you very much. Okay, gentlemen, see you.
Hey,
Doc,
John. See you, John.
Rosemere,
Hi,
nice
John.
to see you.
Bye,
Good to
John.
see you.
Ron Nugent, hey, pleasure. Thank you, Ron, for being my host. That was very kind. Enjoyed my time there. So, all right, everyone else, see you later.
Good night.
See you. Bye, John.
Take care.